Okay, well, I'm going to start off just by introducing myself. My name is Tom Foggin, and I am an architect who has lived and worked in Cambridge for the past 5 years. I work for a local practice, and we've worked with about 15 of the colleges, including Fitzwilliam. I believe we're working on your accommodation and refurb, so sorry about the cost. Today I'm representing the Cambridge Association of Architects, which is the local branch of the Royal Institute of British Architects. Some of you may be familiar with the CAA already. We hold events throughout the year to promote local architecture to the wider community. We have our spring launch event every spring, and we're currently preparing a programme of activities with outreach to local schools. And twice a year we also publish the Cambridge Architecture Gazette, which I think some of you may be familiar with. The purpose of the CAA is to give representation to the local architects, and it's to promote the goals of the RIBA, which are namely to champion better buildings, communities and the environment, and also to improve the design quality of public buildings, new homes and new communities. I stole that off the website last night actually. Now the CAA was invited to contribute today as a professional body and offer an insight into the role of the architects in keeping Cambridge special, but I must emphasise I'm standing here today as one individual. I don't represent the views of all architects, and probably not even all the architects in this room. So don't go after all architects. When we're thinking about the role architects play though, it's hard not to think about built projects. We spend the majority of our time working on a range of sectors, from housing to master planning projects, to quinquennial church surveys, to refurbishment work, to building new schools, new university buildings for the communities. But architecture is a lot more than just practicing architecture with a capital A. So to make things easier, I thought we could look at the role that architects might play in a hypothetical project, keeping Cambridge special. I'm not going to give you answers today about what is special about Cambridge, but I'm going to talk through the process. So the RIBA publishes something called the Plan of Work, which some of you, if you have anything to do with construction projects, you may be familiar with, and it acts as a framework for running projects. And it seems this could be a helpful way of looking at the role architects might be able to play and design teams might be able to help keep Cambridge special. So in true Blue Peter fashion, here's one I prepared earlier. It might look a little bit complicated, but I'm going to talk it through step by step. And the point of the Plan of Work in any project is to set out the core objectives at each stage along the way. From initial briefing through to developing the design and then constructing a project and in use. So stages 0 and 1, that's the very beginning. And what does this exactly mean when we're keeping Cambridge special? Stages 0 to 1 focus on strategically defining what the project is about. And the first question we often ask is, why? What's the business case? And what's the strategies for achieving it? Why should we keep Cambridge special? We also ask another crucial question, who? Who is the client? And when I was thinking about this as a hypothetical project, I wasn't really sure who the client is for keeping Cambridge special. Is it everyone in this room today? Is it future generations? Just who are we keeping it special for? And what is it about Cambridge that makes it special? Is it the wide range of fantastic architecture? Is it the public open spaces? Is it the fantastic historic architecture and the river? Is it the way in which the Cambridge has always been at the forefront of the national economy? Why else would it have doubled in size from 1900 to the year 2000, as this map by Peter Bryan demonstrates? So as part of every architect's training, we start a project by analysing context. And we get to grips with understanding the parameters of a project. If we're answering the question, how do we keep Cambridge special? We need to understand the current situation in order to develop ideas on how to achieve that brief. And we've already had some excellent examples of what might make Cambridge special. Whenever we're approaching a project, we have to answer these questions. Who, what, and why. Realistically, can we achieve these goals? So when we break into groups later, we need to work out the answers to these questions. Why are we keeping Cambridge special? And importantly, we need to listen to each other's ideas as well. Because what one person finds interesting and special about Cambridge could be completely different, polar opposite even, to what someone else finds interesting. I think that's the beauty of Cambridge as a city, and also of sharing and discussing ideas in this sort of forum. So moving on to stage 2, which is concept design. This stage looks at developing a project at a more strategic level. So we're working on the project conceptually, we're trying to build some models, exploring form, adjacencies of spaces, sketch layouts. And this is a vital stage. It helps set the parameters for the project. Ultimately, it's the embryonic stage, where the correctly made decisions from the briefing stage feed into the concept and the design moving forward. That's the only way you can make sure that you meet or even exceed a client's expectations. I must emphasise the importance of these first 2 stages. Unless we get the brief right on day 1 and properly understand what we're trying to achieve, the entire project will be fundamentally flawed. And this becomes apparent in schemes where there isn't a clear strategy. You get bitty, piecemeal answers that simply don't add up. This is why a clear brief is so important. It gives a set of clear, real-world constraints for the design team to work with. And the same is true here. If we're going to successfully develop Cambridge as a city for the future, we must have a clear, coherent strategy with justification for the decisions made at each stage along the way. It's only then that we can establish what we're trying to achieve. And what are we trying to achieve? Is growth, and encouraging growth, enough of a deliverable? I'm not entirely sure. But it can be seen as a reflection of the socio-economic success that Cambridge has experienced. So do we want to see more of that? And if so, how do we go about achieving that for the next 100 years to come? We've already touched on the major developments going on around the city. You've got the Cambridge Biomedical Campus, which is being led by the university with the NHS and the hospital, private investors like AstraZeneca. You've also got the North West Cambridge Master Plan being led primarily by the university, and that's already won international master planning awards. And it's quite exciting to see all those cranes. Down by the station, we've also got CB1, which it's in theory creating a new business district, and quite rightly, as Wendy pointed out, it's the gateway to the city from the rail network. But conceptually, these are all discrete interventions. So what's the big picture? What's the big idea for moving Cambridge forwards? I'm asking a lot of questions and not really giving many answers, but I hope it's food for thought. The next step we come on to is stages 3 and 4, and this really is the bread and butter, in a way, of what architects spend a lot of the time doing. It's taking an initial brief through from the concept to delivering technically resolved proposals. And at some point during this phase, the project will then be submitted for planning. This is a critical point in any project's life for a number of reasons. Firstly, it's important for the client, because without planning permission, you can't do anything. Secondly, it's important for the architect and the design team, as it acts as a benchmark for the project. Typically, whatever gets submitted for planning eventually gets built. But for the city, planning process is an opportunity not to be squandered. It's a time when schemes actually come under scrutiny, particularly here in Cambridge, where we have the city's design and conservation panel and the county's design quality panel. These both act as independent checks and balances. In the last edition of the Cambridge Architecture Gazette, we actually published an article where we praised planning officers for acting as guardians of the built environment. And this has never been more relevant, particularly in Cambridge. We, as architects, we place our trust in the local authority to act as curator for the city, to uphold the highest standards of quality. But in return, the local authority should trust us too, as architects, as a design team, and as a construction industry, because we all have a vested interest in keeping Cambridge special. What's absolutely clear is whatever happens in the next 5 to 10 years, it's imperative that every project we submit, all proposals should be scrutinised, they should be reviewed by our peers and deemed of appropriate quality for a city as highly regarded as Cambridge. So, by the time we get to the end of stages 3 and 4, we'll have a scheme which has been developed from a clearly defined brief through the concept to a well-resolved solution. Now, there may be different aspects of the project. There's probably many different stakeholders involved. But the important thing is that proposals should form a coherent whole across the entire city. And this is where architects and other design professionals can help. we can play an important role, because we've been trained in realising high-level strategies through to technically delivering individual discrete projects. But equally important in this process is communication, understanding the complex challenges of dealing with so many different stakeholders. Particularly in Cambridge, you've got all of the local residents, you've got the universities, you've got local businesses, there's the local authority, there's national investors, there's international investors, and you've got central government with their influence as well. And that's an important aspect of everything we're talking about today. There isn't a simple answer, there isn't one client and one sort of interest group. There isn't a simple answer and there is no simple solution. So we can extol the virtues of keeping Cambridge special, but whatever future projects the city undertakes, you need people with the right skills to not only come up with these exciting new concepts, but to deliver them sustainable solutions. And when I say sustainable, I don't just mean environmentally, but socially, economically, long term. So it feels like I've already moved on to the next stage, which is stages 5 and 6. I've grouped these together here as a sort of delivery stage. And to be honest, there's not a huge amount to say about this. Once we've developed a set of well-refined proposals, in theory delivering it's just a piece of cake. Of course, there may be difficulties along the way, but with a clearly defined brief and a clear set of strategies and goals identified along the way, then in theory the process should be able to continue and any problems can be dealt with without any major hiccups. And the important thing I'd like to get across here is that during the stage of delivery, it's important not to lose sight of the original concept and brief. So in construction projects, we often talk about the golden triangle of cost, time and quality. Invariably, throughout the course of a project, these priorities shift. At the start, we all focus on the quality. The reason we undertake any project is to make things better. Like, for example, this new tap I want to fit in my bath. But then as the project progresses, budgets start to come under a bit of scrutiny and we start worrying about the cost. So perhaps, clients need to make a few savings. But that's okay because we sort that out. We get on site and we start delivering the proposals. So time and cost is then essential. There's a contract in place, you've got to just get things done. So then in the final few weeks we realise, yeah, we're going to hit the deadline and the costs are about right. But hold on, what happened to the quality? Now, unless the team behind keeping Cambridge special are committed to seeing it through and upholding the values of the original, there's little chance of success. And this requires buy-in from all stakeholders at all stages, as well as the design team and those responsible for delivering the project. So moving on, we come to the the final stage, which is in use, stage 7. And this is where we monitor what we've done. We track the performance of the project, and that's environmentally, socially, how it's impacted on its users. And in the context of keeping Cambridge special, this will be vital. You could see it as the feedback stage. So we can look back and we can think about how the choices we've made affected people living in the city. Have we made public transport easier to use? Is it greener and cleaner? Have we enhanced our neighbourhoods? Have we given communities new opportunities to grow? Now, some of you might have noticed, or perhaps not, that the plan of work diagram is a circle, and this is intentional. It reflects the way in which projects should inform our judgment and decisions for the next projects we take on. We can learn a lot from all of our experience here in this room, not just about what has been successful, but about what mistakes to avoid repeating. So equally, you could see stage 7 as a vital first step on the journey. It's an opportunity to look at precedents. We can look at other cities to inform the start of this process here in Cambridge. So what has been done in other cities around the UK to upgrade, improve their urban realm, somewhere fit for the future? What lessons can we learn from the rest of Europe? If we're looking to keep Cambridge special, can we learn anything from Strasbourg or from Copenhagen or Amsterdam? So to conclude, I've already touched on the fact that Cambridge roughly doubled in size in the past 100 years. We're looking at huge development across the city at the moment, and there's more to come. So how do we deal with this? I've already said there isn't a simple answer, and there isn't a simple solution, but we shouldn't be afraid about what's coming. We need to ensure that whatever form development takes, with design professionals with the right skills involved, we can guide the process and assist the inevitably broad range of stakeholders. Some of you are here in this room. We can assist you to articulate ideas, to deliver projects successfully with joined up thinking. We often forget that change is a part of life, and that includes changes in the urban realm. It's very easy to stick our heads in the sand and refuse to consider new ways of thinking. But then we risk repeating the mistakes of the past. When new ideas are proposed, why don't we run towards them? Why don't we see what opportunities they might offer? When managed properly, with a thoroughly developed brief and careful planning, change can be a positive. And I think that's one of the ways Cambridge is so special. It's a constantly changing, evolving character. So we've got a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity right now to shape the future of this city. I hope everyone here embraces this chance to do more than just build new roads, new pavements. It's actually a chance to create a city which sustainably meets the needs of tomorrow's residents and for the next 100 years to come.